So I've made some scatter terrain this week, I've made some rock stuff, made a tree, and I've made a little house. For the ease of editing and your viewing, I've put them all into the separate sections. I haven't done it in the filming order because I was going all over the place. While that was drying, I'll start on that. While that's down there, I'll do a bit of this. While I've fucked up that, I'm going to go and do that. So that should make it less confusing, but what there will be is varying degrees of mess throughout each part. So let's get started. Starting off with the one thing I've done before, rocks with polystyrene. I did quite a bunch of this on my Casadoon build, link to that. And this will be more or less more of the same, if that's how the saying goes. Using a hot wire cutter to cut out the foam into rocky shapes. But if you haven't got a hot wire cutter, you can use a file to shape preferably polystyrene on the denser side of foam. The friction from the filing does tighten up the foam a bit, but it also makes much more of a mess. Once those are all cut out, it's on to the Mod Podge, which has been mixed with black paint and sand for that rocky texture. So a couple of layers and drying later, it's then on to randomly sponging grey all over. Whereas the ancient saying goes, there is no right or wrong, just sponge. And then you got yourself some rocks, rocky outcrops, rocky plateaus, etc. ready for the table. So for the tree, I've gone with wire technique. Now I've seen other crafters and hobbyists do this, and they use maths with how many wires to have to then branch out in an ordered fashion so you have enough for the branches and other trees' appendages. I just picked up an amount and started twisting. So with my random tree all twisted and ready, I then got the Mod Podge back out. And after way too long slopping about with a brush that was too big, I went with a more precise, smaller brush. Once that's dry, I got my collection of moss stuff, which grows for free in my garden. And maybe even yours. I didn't put much thought into if I should spray the glue on the branches or the moss first. I think I went with a stickier, messier option. But eventually they were on, and it was time to add grass flocking, various greens, and then brush various browns for the bark. So I wasn't feeling too good about my random tree that doesn't really look like an actual tree. But I had an idea. It's now a made up tree, unique to Middle Earth. If Rings of Power can do what they did to the lore, I can add a tree. A tree of the elder days, which now hides in deep parts of old woods. And of course, if you're going to add a tree to the lore, it needs elven names. So I went with words that describe this weird tree with its long arms and bushy clumps of leaves. Eventually I settled on Lofty Bush Tree, if you translated it. In Sindarin, apologies for my Elvish, Ta Toson. And in Quenya, Alda Tara Tusa. And in common speech, Bush Tree. So that made me feel better about my weird looking tree, and I went and bought some normal looking ones online. So on to the house-like structure again, first time. I'm using 3mm grey board for the main shape, for the bones, for the structure. Much like the tree, you should probably do maths and have a plan, but this is quick terrain, so mainly by eye and feel. Once it's hot glued into a square and you realise you should have done the triangle roof part at the stage, you ignore your mistake and figure it out later. So for this wooden building, I use stirring sticks and PVA for the wooden walls, a cereal box for the roof soon to be covered in an old towel, and more grey board for the roof gable. So once the PVA's dry with the wooden struts and beams and all sorts, it's time to prime it black. And once that's dry, I dry brush brown onto the wood parts, and I picked Xandri dust because it's yellow but not too bright yellow for the thatched roof. And if you want to, you could go over with lighter shades for highlights. But this is quick terrain, so I thought that'll do. You also may have noticed there's not a door. I figured as it's scatter terrain and not a playable interior, we can just assume there's a door, but it's always on the other side we can't see. But future wise, I'm thinking magnetised doors and windows, so I can use it for the houses of the Rohirrim, or can add round doors and windows and use it for that little wooden building at Buckleberry Ferry. So that's a plan. Add it to the board and that's some scatter terrain made. Thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe and share the video. See you on the next one.
It's quite cool.